You are now watching Lesage, the best place to learn about competitive Pokemon TCG. Let's get it! Yo, what's going on, peeps? Thank you so much for joining us back at the channel. I'm Lesage. Today we're going to be covering over Victini VMAX. Victini VMAX actually won my late night series number 11 event with about 200 players playing in the event overall. Libui was able to win the event with Victini VMAX with a new spin on it. So I'm really excited to showcase exactly what this deck can do, its strategy, and play some gameplay. So let's jump into the deck profile, see exactly what this deck can do, and we'll carry on from there. So here's the deck. It's extremely simple, playing only 8 Pokemon. 4 basic Pokemon, 4 Victini VMAX. So how is this going to work? You might be like, why is this deck even here? Why are you covering it, Zach? Well, let me get you started. Victini VMAX is very good against V Pokemon because you're able to do 100 plus 120 more damage. That's doing 220 damage, which knocks out most Pokemon V, things such as Victini, ZACIAN V, things like that. And if they're not evolved, there's a good chance you're knocking them out. Now, Max Victory also 2 shots most VMAX Pokemon. 220 plus 220 is 440 damage. That's a pretty vicious attack. So if you're getting those attacks off, you're in good shape. Both Victinis have really good ways to kind of play out in this deck. You have the Spreading Flames Victini that allows you to accelerate energies. Energy Burst can be a powerful attack in a pinch, especially if your opponent has enough energies. You got V Bullets that can do some damage to some Pokemon V. Flare Shot can be doing good damage against most Pokemon. This one also has 1 retreat cost, so keep that in mind. And you might be like, okay, sure, you're a Victini deck. How do you accelerate energies? You don't. You take away your opponent's energies. So if you can't speed up, you slow your opponent down, and that's really where this deck becomes very powerful. You have 4 copies of Fan of Waves and 4 copies of Crushing Hammer to remove your opponent's energies as soon as possible, so it really helps out against your opponent. You also have access to Pokegear to just grab your supporters. You have Kabu, an underutilized supporter since you're usually only going to have 1 active Pokemon. You're shuffling and drawing for 8s, giving you a lot of access to these multi-Fan of Waves, multi-Crushing Hammer turns. You also have Pokemon Catcher, which allows you to bring up your opponent's Pokemon for free. Path to the Peak to slow down your opponent. So you're kind of like heavy damage really quickly, and you're able to disrupt your opponent very quickly. A lot of the other cards are pretty self-explanatory, like Professor's Research, and you can always increase your HP with Heat Fire Energy, but the goal is just to really hit hard and fast, absolutely rip through your opponent's setup, and have access to just more cards than your opponent because you don't need too much to get set up. Might be a little bit of fragile deck, and I know that this deck is going to lose to water, so we're going to play some games and show you exactly how vicious this deck can be. Whether it's 1 game, 2 game, 3 games, we'll figure it out. I just really want to get a good strategy or a good game that showcases what this deck can do. So let's jump into that and see how this deck performs. We lost the coin flip, but that's okay. Maybe we'll have a chance to kind of jump ahead by getting some Crushing Hammers off. And I mean, a deck like this can mulligan a whole bunch, so we'll have to keep that in mind while we're playing this deck in general. We don't really have like the craziest hand, but we do have access to energy, we do have access to Pokegear, we have access to a Fan of Waves, so you can already see how like things are not looking bad by any means. Let's see what our opponent flips over. Yo! They're playing ZACIAN. So this is one of the top decks in the format. So as long as our opponent does not get out a bunch of energies, we might be okay here. Otherwise, we're forced to get a whole other basic Pokemon. Yikes. Now we're going to have to find Crushing Hammers in order to make everything work. So let's just go for a Heat Fire Energy here. And we're just going to go for Kabu. Kabu is going to allow us to get a better chance of getting a basic Pokemon, which would be really important. We'd really like to get a Crushing Hammer here as well. Let's go Quick Ball, discard this Fire Energy, just because we can get back some energies. Let's go for the Victini V. We're going to go for this one because we're able to go for Flare Shot, and of course it's the only one that we have access to. Let's go for Crushing Hammer, see if we can rip that energy away. So you can already see like we're not in a bad spot by any means because we took their energy and they're just going to concede this game because they have nothing going on. So our opponent here is going to be calling the coin flip. We lost the coin flip. We're going to be going seconds, but maybe we'll get an okay hand to start off the game. As long as we have Victini and energy and a supporter, I feel pretty good about our chances as long as we're not playing against a water type deck. Water just seems to be absolutely dreaded for this particular build. And I mean, we do have access to a Victini, we do have access to an energy, we do have access to a supporter, Crushing Hammer. Like, you can see all the cards in your deck are usually pretty good. So as long as this is not going to be Suicune or Ice Rider, or I guess like any other kind of water deck, I can only imagine that Inteleon VMAX would not be our favorite deck to play against. But we'll see exactly what our opponent does here. If they slip up a little bit, it's almost as if we started going first. Okay, Jolteon VMAX, this might be okay. If they don't get out Jolteon as soon as possible, we'll have to see exactly what's going on. We might be able to just like hit their Jolteon really quickly. Okay, so they do have another one. I'm surprised that they actually attached an energy to their Sobble before going through. That is 2 copies of Jolteon VMAX in their discard pile. So kind of an interesting choice on their behalf. No, just kind of interesting in general. Way different than how I ever would have played that. Maybe they just don't want to go Jolteon VMAX and they're going to turn into a Sobble deck is their plan. Let's go Crushing Hammer, try to take their energy away. Crushing Hammer never misses apparently. We really don't have too much else that we're looking for. I see that it's just probably better for us to play Kabu than not play Kabu. Even though that we have the Evolution Incense, we're still looking for other things in our deck. And I mean, our hand just got better. We don't have a way to get an energy in the discard pile. So we're going to go Spreading Flames, and that's just going to pass our turn. So next turn, we're able to start going Victini VMAX, Max Victory, all the way to the top. And we might be able to go Boss's Orders, Pokemon Catcher, things like that to just kind of go around whatever our opponent has. Maybe they played against a few Victini decks, and they just decided that it's better to go as a kind of a Sobble, Drizzile, Inteleon deck, because it is water type. It is a cool strategy. Maybe that's just the play against Victini. I don't see how it would be, although our damage output is quite limited because Max Victory only does 100 damage to non-Pokemon V. So we do want to keep that in mind, and maybe with a few quick shootings, Waterfall does a decent bit of damage. So our opponent, while they're playing it out interesting, it just kind of proves that if your opponent needs to come up with a new strategy to play their deck that they previously were playing, it can be a bit of a struggle for them in general. So let's see how that plays out. Okay, they're going full Drizzile mode. Oh, and they're gonna go Marnie. I'm still fine. Our hand was very good, but there's a lot of very good cards in this deck, and we might be able to get something even better. Pokemon Catcher, Fire Energy, we might be able to rip this Drizzile out, or if they get a Jolteon out, we might be able to rip a Jolteon from play, take 2 prize cards pretty easily. Just, again, looks like they're foregoing Jolteon. Maybe their Jolteons are prized? That might be interesting. Let's go Pokemon Catcher. Yeah, we're going to bring this one up. And this deck just, like, sometimes just runs really hot. I'm going to keep that there just in case we want to have access to V-Bullet or Flare Shots. But let's go Max Victory for the 100 damage. And we're just going to prey on their little prize card Pokemon. It's going to be really hard for them to get set up. And I mean, we have Kabu and maybe another Pokemon Catcher. So far, we've got 2 for 2 heads. There's a lot of coin flips in this deck, but it also means that they kind of balance themselves out. If you have 4 Crushing Hammers and 4 Pokemon Catchers, let's say you probably use about 75% on game, we still probably have another heads in our deck, if that makes sense. So we should probably get at least 1 more heads per this game. And you can see if they attach a special energy, we could just Fan of Waves it. We could just go Boss's Orders, bring up whatever they have going on. I'm really not worried at this point because we can kind of balance everything that's currently just going on in this game. And whatever they really have at us, we can kind of cannibalize, just beat down on that Pokemon. So even if they evolve, like we have a Boss's Orders in our hand, we can just bring that up. If they do evolve, we have Crushing Hammers, and we could just go Professor's Research to get set up. See, this is just another game where it's just like, cool, let's go Boss's Orders. Opponent's probably just going to concede at this point. Yeah, exactly. We're just able to just eat Pokemon alive. I know this video is probably going to be on a bit of the shorter side, and we played a game that was a minute long and a game that was maybe like 5 minutes long at best. And these are really the games that you're going to be playing with Victini. We do have the grand finals match up between Lebui and Renato Santos. So if you want to watch that, you can see how they were able to play in a championship finals. But even that game was only 19 minutes for both games. And that was with like both players fully getting set up. So like games with this deck are rapidly quick. And a lot of it's just going to be down Victini getting Crushing Hammer heads, ripping your opponent's energies, and attacking. Vicious decks like this do not play long, and your opponent does not want to sit there while they get beat up on. So your opponent might be quick to concede. Maybe if we had a water deck, they'd want to play it the full game. But it's one of those things where if Victini just hits a normal deck that has Pokemon V, they might be able to rip through it pretty quickly. So overall, it's an effective deck. I think it's something that's I like. Would I change some things about the list? Yeah, I think it was more of a metagame call for that night. You might want to cut some things like Path to the Peaks or maybe even Marnie's for other cards that you may want to have into the deck. But beyond that, I think just having a straight up consistent deck that's just disruption and quick to attack is quite powerful. I'd love to play some more games, but I think it's just going to get to the point where we get set up, we get a Crushing Hammer heads, and our opponent's going to concede. I could put in another 3 2-minute games. These are the games that we're playing on the ladder. These are the games that we're just going to be seeing when we're playing this deck. So feel free to give the deck a tryout yourself. The list is in the description. And if you want to play in my next late night series, the link's in there too. So I really appreciate everyone watching this video. Thank you so much and have yourself a great one. Peace out. I truly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. It means the world to me. And my goal with this channel is to spread my love of the game and knowledge with our entire Pokemon TCG community. If you haven't already, help signal boost this video to other Pokemon TCG fans by liking it, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to the channel. Hopefully we reach our goals really soon. Check out this recommended video, and have yourself a great day. Thanks.